Well, it's interesting to notice that the Dutch Bishop Martinus Muskens, this is a Catholic bishop, is now calling upon Christians to call God Allah. Unbelievable. This is 30th of September 2007. To the Catholics, it makes no difference if you're praying to God the Father or to Allah. Because in Catholicism, there's no difference between Allah and Buddha, between Buddha and Shiva, between Shiva and Sokagaya, between Sokagaya and Jain, or between Jain and Jesus. It makes absolutely no difference to them. That's why the Bible calls this woman a harlot, a whore of the greatest proportions, and the high priest is the Antichrist on earth, the one that comes in the place of Christ, working against Christ. Time magazine had this article showing the papacy actually leaning forward and bowing down to the symbol of Islam. Why on earth would the Pope bow down to the symbol of Islam? Well, think about it. What does he bow down to at Mass? It's exactly the same symbol. He takes the host and holds it up. He puts the host inside the crescent moon, and the whole of the Catholic Church bows down to the host, and it makes no difference whether it's the Baal Hadad of Catholicism or the Baal Hadad of Islam. And makes no difference to the Catholic Church and to the high priest of paganism. And that's why today, if you go and have a look, you'll see that the papacy is quite comfortable with the Quran. In fact, you have Pope John Paul II kissing the Quran in 1999. Even though the Quran says that Jesus is not even the Son of God, and he certainly didn't die for us, there's no problem for them with that. What about the current Pope? Not too long ago, as he went to the synagogue to pray, he made a stunning conciliatory gesture, turning towards Mecca and assuming an attitude of Muslim prayer. As the Pope was walking through the synagogue, there's a crack in the wall. He stopped, he turned towards Mecca, and he bowed, and there he prayed, showing his link and his association to the Muslims. It makes no difference to him if you're a Muslim, or if you're a Hindu, or if you're a Jew, or if you're a Catholic. There's absolutely no difference, brothers and sisters. But according to the Bible, there is an enormous difference. But it'll become clear as we look into the sanctuary. The Pope was hailed for praying towards Mecca. What a wonderful move that he did to pray towards Mecca, they say. And guess what? As the 21st of September 2007, Zenit.org, which is the world seen from Rome, this is Rome's mouthpiece, says that Father Lang comments on facing the east. Pope Benedict has changed the Mass. He's now changed the Latin Mass so that the priest holding the Latin Mass must turn around and must now do the Mass facing the east. Unbelievable. You see, like Proverbs 14:12 tells us, there is a way which seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Sometimes it might seem right to you. It might seem right that what you're doing as a Christian is correct. But please recognize that although it might seem right, if you don't have the filter of Jesus Christ, you might be on a road of death. The world changed on December 7, 1965. The Second Vatican Council issued something called the Dignitatis Humanae, the Declaration. This is a decree on religious freedom, allowing humanity to worship whichever God they wanted, in whatever form they wanted. From 1965 onwards, the Vatican said that governments worldwide must ensure that you are allowed to worship any form of religion you wish. From 1965, the papacy said, we want the South African government, the Russian government, the American government, the German government, all governments around the world to enforce that it's your human right that you can worship whichever God you want. Now please remember that the issue in heaven was worship. And Lucifer wants your worship. So the only way to make sure that whichever God you worship goes through to Satan is to make sure that all those gods are linked to Satan. Now, that is a huge statement, and it's going to be backed up through the next couple of presentations. So bear with me, it'll make sense soon. But after Vatican II, Rome's approach is now based on Dignitatis Humanae, right? On this declaration of Dignitatis Humanae, the dignity of humanity, or otherwise known as human rights. And the problem with human rights is that if you look at human rights, here's the original Human Rights Declaration of the French Revolution. This was laid out in 1798, right? There's a Declaration of Human Rights. And I want you to notice, very interesting that it's laid out in 2 tablets of stone. Everything that belongs to God, Moses took 2 tablets of stone from God, so Satan will steal it and make his own 2 tablets of stone for his own new law. What else can we see? Well, I want to zoom in onto this top area over here. What do you notice on top there? Can you see it there? On the Declaration of Human Rights is the all-seeing eye of Lucifer. That's the all-seeing eye of the New World Order, the one that you find on the $1 bill. And at the bottom here, you've got the Ouroboros, which is the snake eating its own tail. The symbol of the immortality of life. That's a symbol of Lucifer when he said, you're not going to surely die. You'll become as gods, having immortality and having the knowledge of good and evil. These are the foundations and the symbols of the idea of human rights. It does not come from God. It comes from Satan, and it is a way to block God's people from telling the Muslims about Jesus, because it's your human right to make sure that you are deceived. And I'm not allowed to, now according to human rights, if you take the South African Parliament, I am not allowed to pray in the name of Jesus Christ in the Parliament anymore. It's illegal. In Australia, at the Adventist Hospital in Australia, in Sydney, I'm not allowed to pray as a nurse. I'm not allowed to pray with my patient because it's against the human rights of the patient. So what happens here is there's a blockage between God's people and between the message. Now, the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry tells us that the all-seeing eye, and I just want to go back and show you, that's this guy on top over here. The all-seeing eye, there you see it on a temple in Freemasonry. This is a symbol of the supreme being. That's another name for Lucifer. Borrowed by the Freemasons on the nations of antiquity. On the same principle, the Egyptians represented Osiris, the sun god, their chief deity, by the symbol of an open eye, and placed the hieroglyphic of him in all their temples. So Osiris, the sun god, is symbolized by that all-seeing eye. And as I showed you there on Freemasonry, there's the symbol of Freemasonry. Now I go into a lot of depth on Freemasonry, and I show from their own writings what is going on inside Freemasonry in that other presentation of mine, God's Final Call. But here is one, the all-seeing eye from the $1 bill. If you want to find out more, get hold of the God's Final Call series, and it'll all start to make sense. Now, Bailey, Alice A. Bailey, then goes on to mention that the eye of God is Shiva, or Siva, the destroyer. And remember, Siva is the Indian god who's the equivalent to Osiris, and Shiva is also a synonym for Satan. Now, Mark Woodman is not saying this. These are the highest authorities around the world recognizing that Lucifer's symbols are still being recognized today. That was on top of the human rights. Now, below that, I showed you the Ouroboros, or the snake eating its own tail. Here is, if you go to occultforums.com, you can see there on top, occultforums.com. This is the Ouroboros. It was a common pagan symbol during the time of the Hermetics and the Gnostics. This is one, there you see the sun symbol behind it, and the snake with all the skulls eating its own tail. This is in a Tibetan monastery. So, over and over and over, what you're finding today, what do you hear today on the news? God's law, God's law, God's law, or do you hear human rights, human rights, human rights? See, there's been a swap over, absolutely brilliant plan. And if you look at these human rights, the 2 tablets of stone have been replaced now by the 2 tablets of human rights, with the symbol of fascism called the fascii here in the middle, and the Jacobin hat with the all-seeing eye on top and the Ouroboros underneath it. These symbols are the symbols of Lucifer and his go for the final people that are going to stand for God's truth on earth. But we have to all take it back to the sanctuary, brothers and sisters. As this comic depicted, Moses comes down from Mount Sinai with the 10 Commandments. And his high priest Aaron, with the calf now standing, the golden calf, where they're worshipping and bowing down to the calf. Moses says to Aaron, no, you can't worship a calf. Now all of a sudden Aaron takes out this Dignitatis Humanae and says to Moses, oh no, Vatican II's Dignitatis Humanae does not allow you to prevent us from worshipping the golden calf. That's the problem. As of 1965, Dignitatis Humanae no longer allows me to correct somebody that's in error. So human rights blocks my ability to preach the gospel. Human rights, in fact, takes the place of God's law. Moses is standing with God's law. Aaron is standing with dignitatis humanae. Which one are you going to choose? If you go back to the sanctuary, brothers and sisters, you've got two conflicting laws. One over there and one over here. Here you've got dignitatis humanae, the human rights of the people. Here you have got God's law and the human rights of heaven. Which one are we going to choose, brothers and sisters? It's up to you. But remember that the high priest of sun worship could not allow mankind to worship any god that they choose unless he was sure that by doing so, all worship would be channeled through to Satan. It would make no difference to him which channel he used. Only by 1965, it had taken thousands of years to make sure that this happened. By 1965, the Vatican was sure. It doesn't matter to them anymore if you're a Protestant, or if you're a Catholic, or if you're a Hindu, if you're a Muslim, a Jain, a Jew, a Buddhist, whatever you are, sun-worshipping pagan, all of you, including Protestantism, is worshipping the sun. Now, is that possible? Yes, it's possible, and it's going to become clear through these presentations. Pope Leo the 12th said that, "Come therefore to this holy Jerusalem, a priestly and royal city, which the sacred seat of Peter has made the capital of the world. Truly, it," that's Rome, "rules more widely by divine religion than by earthly domination." Rome is in control today. Just like the Bible said, the whole world will be under the power of Rome. That's exactly where we are today. And like Pope Boniface said, Pope Boniface the 8th said, "For every human creature, it is necessary for salvation to be subject to the Roman pontiff." Excuse me? Let's read that again. For every human creature, it is necessary for salvation to be subject to the Roman pontiff. I beg your pardon? My Bible tells me that for every human creature, it is necessary for salvation to be subject to Jesus Christ. So which one is it? Is it going to be Christ, or is it going to be the opposite one that comes in the place of Christ, the Antichrist? Either you are subject to Jesus for salvation, or you are subject to the Pope for salvation. But please note that he himself says every human creature has to be subject to the pontiff. Exactly like the Bible says. The whole world will be subject to this system. Pope Innocent IV said, "The Pope is the vicar of the Creator, to whom every creature is subject." The whole world is subject today to Benedict. Now, this is not done on CNN, and this is not done on Sky News. But come back to the presentations, and we'll show you some video clips and some things that might show you what you might not normally see on the news, and how the nations are bowing down in reverence obedience to the authority of the Catholic Church. You see, like Pope Leo explained, Pope Leo the 13th said, "The Roman Church, mother and mistress of all churches." She's the mother and the mistress. She's the harlot of all the churches. Rome knows what her role is, and she knows that she has to call the whole world together. Now, the interreligious ecumenical movement is one of the most powerful movements taking place in the world today. This is the combination. Doesn't matter if you are Muslim or Orthodox or whatever your religion is, Jew or Catholic or it doesn't matter whether you're Lutheran or whatever your religion is, brothers and sisters, the sheiks as well, coming together in one religious unity. Now, remember, is there truth in religion? Yes. Is there all truth in religion? Well, it depends if you're preaching according to the sanctuary. You see, because all truth is what Jesus is asking us to be with, to confirm ourselves with. That's 7 plus 7. In other words, truth with truth gives you 14. But truth with error, 7 plus 16 gives you what number? I beg your pardon, 7 plus 6 gives you what number? 13, right? The combination of truth and error. Yes, the Lord wants unity. But no, He doesn't want a unity in error. He wants unity in truth. And the question is,